I think the most important thing you should know about doing less laundry during postpartum is to only wash your clothes when they're dirty. Hey, lady. Welcome to the Postpartum on Purpose podcast. If we haven't met, my name is Anne Marie. I'm wife to James and mom to 5 beautiful kids, ages 9 and under, with 1 miscarried baby. Here, we see postpartum, all the way from birth to the first year of life, as a time of grit, growth, and grace. This is episode 82. Hi, lady. I hope you're so well. First up is free things this week. If you've been around a minute, you know that free things is mental shorthand for reminding ourselves that there is always something to be grateful for, and that no matter what the size of our family or how big our budget, a rich, meaningful, beautiful life is available to all of us. The free things this week kind of run the gamut. Among them, I have now in my possession an African violet, which is a type of flowering plant. It came to me this afternoon via the parents of our old pastor, 3 pastors ago, from his parents. They reached out and know that I like plants and said, hey, would you like a new one? We've done cuttings over time. This is a grandchild plant. And I said, I would be delighted. And not only that, I thought this was super kind. They even gave me African violet food. I had no idea that was a thing. In addition, I went and used up a free chicken biscuit at Chick-fil-A last Saturday morning, the very last day it could be used because it was the end of the month. And while I was there picking up my free sandwich, the lady behind the counter handed out to everybody that was waiting in the carryout line another voucher for a chicken biscuit. My husband said, let me get this straight. You went in, you got a free chicken sandwich, and in the process of getting the one free thing, you got another free thing. I said, yes, that's exactly right. He just rolled his eyes and said, only you. In addition to that, we now have a new to us table and chairs that can fit more people. We previously had my grandmother's old set, but not hers as in from her family, just like one she had been given by a coworker at some point. But my mom thought it was a 60-year-old set, and it kind of showed. And now we have a bigger table that can hold up to 10 or 12 people, I think, which is tremendous. So we've got it down to the 6-person size right now, but it can expand to hold a lot more people. And I love that because we do host. And now we're prepared to have people sitting at the table and not in odds and ends of corners. Another thing that's free this week is that a lady signed me up. She's a Mary Kay consultant. She signed me up without my knowledge or approval for her Mary Kay catalogs, which is fine because every time one comes, they've got a little free sample of something in there. And I used not just once, but twice a facial mask sample it's like dry shampoo. You just leave it in, you leave it on, you don't scrub it off or rinse it. I don't quite understand that, but it's been great. I got 2 uses out of that. And then, the last thing, I got a wellness visit for free. And you might be thinking, well, all wellness visits are for free. Well, this one almost wasn't. I went in for my checkup. I had preventative labs drawn just to see where things were. And I had them at the very end of the year before the deductible reset, and then scheduled the appointment for the end of January. So a couple weeks later. Anyhow, I went in, had the wellness visit. We reviewed my labs. And then I asked about, it looks kind of like upper arm acne. It's papillomatosis, keratosis, something like that. Anyhow, I asked about that as well since I was there for the visit. And then I got a bill. And I called and I said, oh, no, I had a wellness visit. What is the charge for $94.12? And they said, oh, well, it was a wellness visit and an illness visit because you asked questions about the upper arm acne. I said, I don't think that's how that's supposed to work. And the lady said, well, I'll check with so-and-so and call you back. And she called me back and said, oh yeah, no, that's an illness visit. I said, but I'm not ill. And I said, could you ask somebody else? And after that call, persistence paid off. And whomever it was that called back said, oh yeah, I spoke to management. And I still didn't quite understand their rationale, but it was just at the end of the day for me, a thought of, but I went in for a wellness check and I was not in fact sick. I was asking just questions about my wellness and health. That's just one of those things, I suppose, that almost cost money but did not. And I'm grateful that it did not. And yeah, if something like that happens to you, I hope you will push as well, lady, because we have enough things to do with our money without being charged unnecessarily. Because that's what it seemed like. It just seemed like they were trying to get some money out of the visit. And I get that. I get that because we get financial aid, not from that health system. My primary care doctor is not in the health system that we get our financial aid through for the hospital. But I get it. You need to fund the financial aid and other expenses somehow. I just don't want it to be through that. Not for a wellness visit. And then one small change. And if you've been around a minute, you know that one small change is just a reminder that we are always, like, something is always shifting during postpartum, right? Whether it's my baby is a week old or 11 months and 22 days old, little things are always changing. And when, especially early on, I think no matter how many kids you've had, but especially early on with your first and or second child, it can just be like, man, whatever's hard today, it's just, I don't see how it's going to get better. I remember with my oldest, who is now almost 10, thinking, when he wasn't sleeping through the night early on, like, I can't do this for 18 years. Mercy, Dolly, dramatic much. But just a reminder, the one small change is just kind of keeping track of what is changing in our life or our baby's life or both. And my one small change this week is that I went and ran a mile. And you might be thinking, Anne-Marie, I run 8 miles a day. Okay, that's awesome. That is not my usual. I have not run a mile, and it was like half a mile and then half a mile with walking in between. I haven't run a mile in a decade, conservatively estimating a decade. And I just thought, hey, I don't even know if it's called back in the saddle at this point. At what point is it just like not picking up where you left off, but just starting something new? But I'm 36 years old. I've had 5 kids. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I'm planning to try that again tomorrow. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about how to do less laundry during postpartum. And I tried recording a teaser for the beginning of this episode, just because I've noticed that's what other podcasts do. And I honestly don't know if that'll happen every time or not. This time, though, I had kind of a thought about what I would say as the lead into the episode, and therefore recorded it. But the single most important thing I think you can do to have less laundry during postpartum is to only wash clothes when they're dirty. And you might be thinking, Jiminy Christmas, Anne-Marie, that was certainly worth the price of admission. Just kidding. Okay, but here's where this came from. And here's why I used to wash clothes that were not in fact dirty, and I bet you do too. My aunt sent me a text. Was this a year ago now, I think? And actually not one text, but 14 of them. I counted 14 texts about this book that she had read called Laundry Love by a guy named, I think, Patric Richardson. There's no K at the end of the Patrick, so I'm not sure if it's Patrick or Patrick, but she was just going on and on about how it had revolutionized the way she did laundry, and I just had no idea that laundry was even a thing you could revolutionize. And I got the book from the library, and I was reading it, and you know what? Yeah, it has actually shifted the way that I do laundry. And in fact, I've become such a laundry love evangelist that my sister and a friend of hers have now read the book as well. My sister's even going all out and painting one wall in her laundry room, which is in the basement, a bright, shiny, sunshiny color to amplify her mood while she is doing laundry. But not everything in the book, I think, is necessarily a great time to, postpartum is not necessarily a great time to incorporate everything in the book, okay? And as one example, he has many suggestions about things to use for removing stains that are not your traditional spray and wash or shout stain remover. I'm trying out some of those, honestly, and I would just say, like, right now, the jury is still out. It takes, as you can imagine, it takes more steps to follow his recommendations if you're using laundry soap, which I didn't even know was a thing. Laundry soap and oxygen whitener and an oil-based solution and a mixture of vinegar and water. The point is not to overwhelm you. It's just simply to say there are multiple levels and gradations of how serious you could get about the recommendations made in Laundry Love, but I'm sharing with you today just a couple of them and the ones that I think are the most important. And the most important one, like I said, is to only wash clothes that are dirty. And by that I mean not something you wore once, not something even that you wore twice necessarily, if there are no stains on it. If there are no stains, it might be just just like a touch musty. Like it might just need a little bit of freshening, right? You wore it, but there's nothing to spray and wash out. You can spray it with vodka in a spray bottle. Yes, vodka. The kind that you buy at the store for $8 a bottle. Don't go fancy. You're not drinking it. You're spraying it. And the reason that vodka works to freshen clothes that do not have stains in them, because it won't remove your stains, but it will remove the smell from your clothes, is because it neutralizes all of the bacteria. And in case you were wondering, it doesn't also stain your clothes. Like you can't tell that it's on your clothing, and there's no actual smell left over afterwards. So I'll give you an example, right? I wore a sweater and jeans today, and then a t-shirt underneath, and the t-shirt's going in the wash, right? But the pants and the sweater, which don't have any stains, spots, marks on them, are getting sprayed with vodka. And then I will just drape them in my laundry room, where you could hang them on a hanger in your closet with just a touch of airflow. And then that's it. You didn't put them through the wash. You didn't put them through the dryer, because that's another reason or another point that Patric Richardson makes in his book as well, is this idea that, and I had never heard this before, but clothes are really only meant to go through the wash a certain number of times. And the number of times is probably less than you might think. He said decent quality clothing, 50 washes. Excellent quality clothing, 75 washes. And I thought, oh, I would have very different expectations of what I would think clothing should last. And I tend to say also sometimes, oh, well, clothes just aren't made like they were used, or just aren't made like they were used to, like they used to be. That's what I'm trying to say anymore. And yes, definitely when it comes to mass manufactured clothing, that's true. But it was just a helpful reminder to me that even the very nicest clothes, the best made clothes that we have, aren't going to last forever. And that if we can wash them fewer times, we preserve their life, which is especially important if it's actually clothing you like. And I hope you're only wearing clothing that you like. And especially also if you don't own a ton of clothing, because see, rule 1, if you're only wearing clothing that you like, maybe there aren't a ton of clothing items that you have. So let's preserve the ones you've got. But if you stick to this rule of only washing clothing that is actually dirty, even if you have a baby who spits up a fair amount, even if you end up getting stains and things on your clothes, so of course they have to be washed if there are stains. If you are not unnecessarily putting clothing through the system, and this has compounding returns no matter, like, the more children or family members that you have, you will do less laundry during postpartum. I promise you. Something else that I want to offer for your consideration is more an efficiency thing than a doing less laundry exactly. But you've probably already maybe got, or at least heard of, doing wool dryer balls to decrease your drying time. But he also talked about getting spiky wool balls, like porcupines he called them. And that's actually what I got to off of the Amazon, to decrease your drying time as well, and to fluff up your towels. And I just thought, well, that was so nice. That's great. And then another tip that he offered for, and like I said, I'm only giving you the ones that I think are the most helpful, the most important during postpartum. There are lots more things that he said that were helpful. But it reduces the wear and tear on your clothing if you sort your clothes differently than you probably are now. And by that I mean sorting them into cool colors, greens, blues, grays, and purples, and then a pile for black clothes, and then a pile for white clothes, and then a pile for warm clothes, which would be yellows, reds, pinks, oranges, browns. If you do that, 2 things will happen. Because cool colored clothes contain a different amount of dye than warm colored clothes, if you wash just cool colors with cool colors and just warm with warm and so on, you are reducing the tension and friction of those clothes in the washing machine, which helps your clothes last longer. And the other thing about it is that when you pull your clothes out of the dryer, and for a lot of people, right, that's kind of where the clothes go to die. They don't maybe get folded right away or put away, or folded or put away. But if you look at those clothes and you have just cool colored clothes or just warm colored clothes, there is something very calming to the eye. And that might sound goofy, but I promise you it's real. I promise you it's real. If you have your clothes sorted in the way that he suggested, cools together, warms together, whites, blacks, and then he has a separate pile for athletic clothes. And that's specifically because, as he points out, they are moisture wicking, but they are oil loving. So they're pulling the oil off of your skin when you sweat, but they are retaining it in the clothes. And these are especially important to spray with vodka because they are not just going to give up those nasty scents just by going through the washer, even with soap. You spray them ahead of time with vodka to help pull the stink out of them, and then you wash as usual. And I was first won over to the entire laundry love way of thinking. Poor me, my words tonight. They're having a hard time. But I was first won over to this whole way of thinking when I sprayed a shirt that my husband only wore for workouts because it was that moisture wicking material, but it was 10 years old, not a new shirt, and it smelled like it. But he liked the material so much, it kept him so cool that he continued to wear it, only it stunk. And I sprayed it. Oh, I sprayed it. I sprayed it hard, and then I hung it up, and I came back, I don't know, 10 minutes later, and I'll be darned if 10 years worth of stink wasn't gone. And after that, it was just like hands in the air, like, okay, all right, I'm ready to throw down. No problem. I'm in. But those are the things that I just wanted to share with you, lady, that if you don't want to do as much laundry during postpartum, if you want to devote your precious time, energy, and resources to things other than folding clothes that weren't dirty in the first place, stop washing them. Stop washing things that are not dirty. Spray them to freshen them. And sort your clothes differently, both to take good care of them and also because it will be more pleasing to look at. And get yourself some wool dryer balls if you haven't got any. And then some of the bumpy dryer balls to help keep things fresh looking and neat. And was that it? I think that's probably good enough for now, lady. If you want to know all his recommendations about different products that you can use, grab the book, Laundry Love. I don't make a time off of it. I'm just telling you something that was really helpful to me. I hope that serves you, lady. I'll talk to you next time.